Captain Mork stood on the bridge of the Crimson Talon, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the control panels. His thick gray skin glinted in the starlight that filtered through the viewports. 6 eyes, arranged in a neat row across him, his broad forehead, narrowed as he studied the small mining station floating in the darkness ahead. "Just another human outpost," he rumbled, his voice like stones grinding together. "Skeleton crew, minimal defenses, rich minerals." His second in command, Kraz, nodded eagerly. "Easy pickings, Captain. Our scans show only 20 life forms aboard. Humans, all of them." Kraz's lip curled in contempt. "Soft creatures, no natural armor, weak." The 8 other Vegans on the bridge clicked their teeth in agreement. In their decades of raiding across 3 galactic arms, they had encountered 17 different spacefaring species. None were as physically unimpressive as humans. "Prepare the boarding party," Mork ordered. "Remember, we want their ore and their equipment. The humans themselves are worthless as slaves. Too fragile." As the pirates moved with practiced efficiency, Mork reviewed what he knew about humans. They had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, expanding cautiously from their home system. Unlike the Vegans, who had evolved on a high-gravity world that gave them dense muscles and thick armor-like skin, humans had developed on a moderate planet with changing seasons and diverse environments. "Pitiful," Mork muttered to himself. His own people had been forged in the fires of a harsh world where only the strongest survived. What chance did these soft-skinned creatures have against the might of vegan raiders? Inside the mining station New Horizon, Jack Miller wiped sweat from his brow as alarms blared around him. The station's simple sensors had detected the approaching pirate vessel 20 minutes earlier, giving them precious little time to prepare. "Everyone in position?" he called through his comm unit. "Ready in Section C," came a woman's voice. "Lisa, the station's geologist." "Section B secure," reported Dave, a burly mining engineer. Jack nodded grimly as similar confirmations came in from the rest of the crew. 20 miners with no combat training, armed with little more than modified drilling equipment and makeshift traps, against actual pirates with real weapons. "Remember the plan," Jack said firmly. "We're not soldiers. We don't try to fight them. Head on. We use the station. We use their expectations against them." "They think we're just scared miners," Lisa added, her voice tight but determined. "Let's show them otherwise," Jack finished. The Crimson Talon docked with a metallic clang against the station's airlock. 12 Vegan pirates, each standing over 7 feet tall and covered in natural armor, checked their weapons one last time. They wore minimal protection, mostly to shield against vacuum rather than enemy fire. Few species could penetrate their thick hides with conventional weapons, and certainly not humans with mining tools. "Standard formation," Kraz instructed. "The boarding party. The humans will likely surrender as soon as we break through. If any resist, make an example of them." Mork watched from a monitor as the airlock between the ships cycled open. This was routine, just another raid to add to their already impressive record. The Vegans were the most feared pirates in this sector for good reason. Their physical prowess was unmatched, their tactics refined through countless successful raids. The boarding party moved into the station's entry corridor, heavy footsteps echoing on the metal floor. The lights inside the station were dimmed to emergency levels, casting long shadows across the walls. "Too quiet," one of the pirates growled. Then chaos erupted. The floor beneath the first 3 pirates suddenly gave way, not completely, but enough to trap their feet in twisted metal. As they struggled to free themselves, panels in the ceiling slid open, and thick industrial adhesive sprayed down, coating the trapped pirates. "Ambush!" shouted one of the Vegans, raising his weapon. Before he could fire, a section of the wall swung open and a makeshift projectile launcher, clearly converted from mining equipment, discharged a barrage of metal scraps. The improvised shrapnel wouldn't have penetrated Vegan hide under normal circumstances, but fired at such close range and aimed at their exposed eyes, it was devastatingly effective. 2 more pirates fell, clutching their faces and howling in pain. Kraz snarled and fired his plasma weapon at the wall launcher, melting it into slag. "Forward," he commanded. "They're just using tricks. Push through." The remaining pirates charged deeper into the station, now alert for traps. But the humans had prepared well. Every corridor held a new surprise. Tripwires connected to pressurized, canisters of industrial solvent, remote-controlled mining drills that burst from hidden compartments to target joints and exposed flesh, electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disabled the pirates' weapons. From the station's control room, Jack coordinated the defense using the internal sensors to track the invaders' movements. "Lisa, they're approaching Junction 4. Activate Trap C." "Activated," she confirmed from her hiding spot 3 sections away. On the monitors, Jack watched as superheated steam erupted from the station's climate control system, temporarily blinding 2 more pirates. "They're adapting," Dave warned over the comm. "They're using their weapons to check for traps before they move forward." Jack nodded grimly. That was expected. Move to Phase 2. Kraz stumbled back to the Crimson Talon's airlock, dragging a wounded comrade. Blood seeped from a deep gash where a mining laser had caught him across the chest, one of the few weapons the humans had that could penetrate vegan hide. "Captain," he gasped as Mork helped him aboard. "These humans, they don't fight like the others." Mork's 6 eyes narrowed in confusion and growing concern. Of the 12 pirates who had boarded the station, only 7 had returned, and most of those were injured. "Explain," he demanded. They don't surrender when cornered. They become more dangerous," Kraz said, his breathing labored. "One human, trapped with no escape. He detonated some kind of explosive, taking himself, and Gore's with him." Mork's jaw tightened. Suicide tactics were rare among spacefaring species. Most valued self-preservation above all else. "And they protect each other," another pirate added. "I had one in my sights, a female, and another human threw himself into my line of fire." Mork turned to look at the station through the viewport. Something cold settled in his stomach, a feeling he hadn't experienced in many raids. It was doubt. "We still outnumber them," he said finally. "Prepare for a second assault. This time we go in with full armor and heavy weapons." But even as he gave the order, Mork couldn't shake the image of humans willingly sacrificing themselves for each other. It went against everything he understood about survival instincts. It was unsettling. Little did he know, this raid would be the beginning of a hunt that would change his understanding of humans forever, and ultimately lead to his final realization that the Vegans never truly had a chance against this deceptively formidable species. 3 months had passed since the raid on the mining station. The Crimson Talon drifted silently in the shadow of a dead moon, its hull still bearing scars from the battle. Inside his private quarters, Captain Mork studied screen after screen of information about humans. The raid had been successful technically. They had managed to steal a significant amount of valuable ore, but the cost had been high. 5 crew members dead, several more injured. In the vegan pirate culture, such losses were nearly unheard of, especially against a physically inferior species. "I don't understand," Mork muttered, his 6 eyes fixed on images of human anatomy. Their bones broke easily. Their skin tore like paper. They had no natural armor, no exceptional strength, no remarkable speed. By all measures, they should have been easy prey. The door to his quarters hissed open and Kraz entered. His chest still bore the angry scar from the mining laser. "The crew is restless, Captain," Kraz reported. "They want to know our next target." Mork gestured to the screens. "Not humans, not until we understand them better." Kraz shifted uncomfortably. "The crew talks. Some say we should avoid human territories entirely." "Cowards," Mork growled. "We've raided the deadliest species in 3 galactic arms. We will not run from soft-skinned humans." "Then what will we do?" Mork closed the screens with a wave of his hand. "We move to the outer trading routes. We find easier targets while we study our enemy." Across the sector, a small human vessel moved with purpose through the darkness of space. The Retribution was not a military ship. It had once been a simple transport vessel, now modified with additional engines, reinforced hull plating, and weapon systems that weren't listed in any official registry. In the ship's command center, Captain Tom Miller studied a star chart with intense focus. A small hologram of his brother Jack floated beside the chart, a reminder of why they were here. "Any sign of them?" asked a woman's voice. Tom looked up as Lisa entered the command center. She had been the geologist on the New Horizon mining station before the Vegan attack. Now she served as the Retribution's scanner operator. "3 possible trails," Tom replied, pointing to different paths on the star chart. "Dave has analyzed the engine signatures from the raid. These are the most likely routes for a Vegan ship trying to stay hidden." Lisa nodded grimly. After the attack, when the company had sent only a small security team as a response, she and the other survivors had taken matters into their own hands. Tom, a former freight hauler and Jack's older brother, had answered their call immediately. "The Crimson Talon thinks they heard us and then disappeared," Lisa said. "They don't understand that for humans the hunt has just begun." Tom's face hardened. "My brother always said space was too big for proper law enforcement. That's why he insisted on all those defensive preparations at the station." He paused, his voice growing quieter. "He was right, and now we'll finish what he started." In the vast emptiness between star systems, the Crimson Talon approached a small trading convoy. 3 ships from the Marillion species, bug-like aliens who specialized in luxury goods but had poor weapons. "Easy targets," Kraz said with satisfaction, as they prepared to attack. "Their ships are valuable, and their cargoes will fetch high prices in the black markets." Mork nodded absently, but his mind was elsewhere. Something about this sector felt wrong. They had raided here many times before, but now there were fewer trading ships, and the ones they found seemed nervous, changing course frequently, staying closer to patrol routes. The raid on the Marillion convoy went as expected. The bug-like aliens surrendered quickly, offering no resistance as the Vegans boarded their ships and took their goods. But as they were transferring the stolen cargo to the Crimson Talon, the ship's alarms suddenly blared. "Captain," called the sensor operator. "Unknown vessel approaching at high speed." Mork rushed to the bridge. "Show me." The screen displayed a small ship, clearly of human design, moving toward them with surprising speed. "It's too small to be a military vessel," Kraz noted with relief. "Scan it," Mork ordered. The results were puzzling. The ship's power signature was stronger than its size suggested possible. Its weapon systems were masked somehow, making it difficult to assess its true capabilities. "It's hailing us," the communications officer reported. Mork hesitated, then nodded. "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen, male with features that reminded Mork uncomfortably of the miners they had raided. There was a hardness in the human's eyes that sent a chill through the Vegan captain. "This is Captain Tom Miller of the Independent Vessel Retribution," the human said, his voice deadly calm. "You attacked a mining station 3 months ago. My brother was stationed there." Mork's mind raced. How had this human tracked them? The Crimson Talon had the best stealth systems money could buy. "You are interfering with legitimate business," Mork replied, trying to sound confident. "Leave this area, or be destroyed." The human's expression didn't change. "You have 1 chance to return everything you've stolen and surrender your ship. Otherwise, we will take it by force." Laughter erupted across the Vegan bridge. The idea that a single small human vessel could threaten them was absurd. "Your brother died bravely," Mork said, deciding to intimidate the human. "Perhaps you wish to join him?" The human's eyes narrowed slightly. "You misunderstand. My brother isn't dead. He's standing right behind me." The camera view widened, and Mork felt his blood run cold. There was the human mine leader from the station raid alive despite the severe injuries he should have suffered. And beside him stood other familiar faces, survivors of the mining station attack. "How?" Mork began. "You never checked, did you?" Tom Miller said. "You assumed we'd all die or be too broken to fight back. That's why you never had a chance against us, Captain. You don't understand what humans are." The transmission cut off, and the sensor operator cried out in alarm. "Captain, they're launching something, multiple small objects." Weapons? Kraz asked. No, they're too small. Drones, maybe? Mork suddenly understood. Evacuate the Morelian ships. Cut them loose. Now. But it was too late. The tiny objects, makeshift, explosive drones built from mining equipment, attached themselves to the Morelian vessels. Within seconds, the trading ship's engines overloaded, casting them adrift. They're coming around for an attack run, the sensor operator reported, voice shaking. The Retribution was moving impossibly fast, its trajectory making no sense to the Vegan tactical officers. Retreat, Mork ordered. Maximum speed toward the Nebula. As the Crimson Talon turned to flee, leaving behind the cargo and the disabled, Morelian ships, Mork found himself struggling with an unfamiliar emotion. Fear. The human ship followed them without hesitation, even as they entered the dangerous radiation fields that surrounded the sector. Mork had chosen their escape route specifically because it would be too dangerous for most ships to follow. But the humans came anyway. They're insane, Kraz muttered, watching the sensor readings. That radiation will fry their systems within hours. Mork stared at the pursuing ship, a terrible realization dawning. They don't care. They've modified their ship somehow, and even if it kills them, they'll still follow us. For the first time in his long career as a pirate, Captain Mork found himself being hunted, and the predators on his trail were a species he had dismissed as weak and unworthy of fear. How terribly wrong he had been. The nebula stretched before them like a vast ocean of glowing gas and dust. Brilliant colors, purples, blues, and angry reds, swirled in cosmic patterns as radiation storms pulsed through the clouds. The Crimson Talon pushed deeper into this dangerous territory, its engines straining against the thick cosmic dust. On the bridge, Captain Mork watched the sensor readings with growing unease. The human ship, Retribution, followed relentlessly, staying just outside weapon range but never losing track of them. This is madness, Kraz said, checking the radiation levels for the 5th time. No ship should function properly in these conditions. Our own shields are barely holding. Mork nodded grimly. The humans have modified their vessel beyond its design, specifications. He pointed to a particular reading. Look there. Their power output is nearly double what a ship that size should be capable of producing. How is that possible? Asked another crew member. They've stripped away safety measures, Mork realized aloud. They're taking risks no sensible species would consider. The Vegans had evolved on a world where caution meant survival. Their ships, like their bodies, were built for durability above all else. The idea of deliberately pushing equipment beyond safe limits was foreign to them, almost offensive. I want a full scan of their vessel, Mork ordered. Find their weaknesses. Aboard the Retribution, Tom Miller wiped blood from his nose. The radiation in the nebula was taking its toll despite the protection they had installed. The ship's doctor had warned that prolonged exposure would cause damage, but the crew had voted unanimously to continue the pursuit. Lisa approached, handing him a small pill. Anti-radiation meds, she explained. Dave's latest batch. They work better than the standard ones, but there's still not enough for long-term exposure. Tom swallowed the pill without water. We won't need long-term. They're running out of places to hide. At a nearby console, Jack, Tom's brother, who had led the defense of the mining station, studied the nebula's swirling patterns. His body still bore the scars of the pirate attack, with one arm now replaced by a prosthetic. They're heading for the densest part of the nebula, Jack noted. They think the radiation and dust will blind our sensors, Tom nodded. And would it? It would if we were using standard sensors. Jack allowed himself a small smile. But thanks to our modifications, we can track their energy signature regardless of the interference. What the pirates didn't know was that the humans had spent weeks studying vegan technology. After salvaging parts from damaged pirate equipment left at the mining station, they understood the Crimson Talon's systems better than its own crew might suspect. How are the drones? Tom asked. Dave looked up from his workstation. Ready for deployment. I've adjusted them to withstand the nebula's conditions, at least for a short time. Tom nodded. Prepare to launch on my mark. Remember, we want to disable, not destroy. These pirates need to face justice. Inside the heart of the nebula, the Crimson Talon slowed its pace. Here, among the thickest clouds of cosmic dust, energy discharges raced like lightning between floating chunks of rock and ice. It was a perfect place for an ambush. All weapons ready, Kraz reported. The human ship will be within range in 3 minutes. Mork studied the tactical display. They've slowed their pursuit, they know we're waiting. Perhaps they've finally grown cautious, another officer suggested hopefully. But Mork shook his head. No, they're planning something. His suspicion proved correct when their sensors detected multiple small objects launching from the Retribution. At first, the Vegans thought they were missiles, but their trajectory was wrong. Too slow, too erratic. Drones, Mork realized. Mining drones, repurposed. The small machines darted through the nebula's clouds, seemingly immune to the radiation that should have fried their circuits. As they approached the Crimson Talon, their purpose became clear. They weren't weapons themselves, but carried small, explosive charges. Target and destroy them. Mork ordered. The Vegan gunners opened fire, but hitting the tiny, fast-moving drones amid the nebula's interference proved nearly impossible. Several made it through the defensive fire and attached themselves to the ship's hull. Brace, Kraz shouted. The explosions weren't powerful enough to breach the hull completely, but they created weak points, small fractures in the Crimson Talon's armor. Clever, Mork said quietly, almost admiringly. They know they can't destroy us with one attack, so they're weakening us piece by piece. Another wave of drones approached from a different direction. Evasive maneuvers, Mork commanded. The great ship turned clumsily in the thick nebula gases, its engines straining. On the Retribution, Tom watched the pirate ship's desperate attempts to evade the drone swarms. Second wave has made contact, Dave reported. Hull integrity of target is down to 78%. Jack studied the readings. They're trying to reach that asteroid field, he said, pointing to a dense collection of rocks ahead of the pirate vessel. The magnetic fields there would hide them from conventional sensors. Good thing we're not using conventional sensors, Lisa replied with grim satisfaction. She had personally modified their scanning equipment using principles from geological survey tools. Tom considered their options. Prepare third wave of drones. Target their engine exhaust ports this time. A warning alarm suddenly blared across the bridge. Energy spike from the pirate ship, Jack called out. They're turning to fight. Mork had made his decision. Running was getting them nowhere. The humans had proven far more resourceful than expected, tracking them through conditions that should have been impossible to navigate. All weapons prepare to fire, he ordered. Target their propulsion systems. I want them stranded in this nebula. The Crimson Talon turned to face its pursuer, weapon ports opening along its massive hull. Compared to the human vessel, it was a Leviathan, 3 times larger and far better armed. They're insane to challenge us directly, Kraz said, confidence returning to his voice. But Mork wasn't so sure. Throughout this chase, the humans had shown they rarely did the expected thing. Why would they suddenly commit to a traditional ship-to-ship battle when their other tactics had been working? Scan for anything unusual, he commanded. Any anomalies? Any strange readings? The sensor officer worked quickly. Captain, there's something odd about the radiation patterns around their ship. They're changing somehow. Mork's 6 eyes widened in sudden understanding. They're using the nebula itself as a weapon. Evasive action, full shields. The realization came too late. The humans had spent their time in the nebula studying its radiation patterns and energy discharges. Now they used their modified equipment to direct a massive energy surge toward the Crimson Talon. Lightning-like tendrils of energy arced from the nebula cloud directly into the weak points created by the drone attacks. The pirate ship shuddered violently as systems overloaded and sections lost power. Port engine failing, an officer cried out. Shield generators down to 40% capacity. Mork gripped his command chair as the ship rocked from another impact. For the first time in his long career as a pirate captain, he felt genuine fear. Not just for himself, but for his entire crew. What kind of species could turn such a deadly environment into a weapon? What kind of minds could improvise such tactics from mining equipment and a transport vessel? As the Crimson Talon limped away, trailing plasma from damaged engines, Mork made another desperate decision. Set course for the ancient station, he ordered. Kraz looked at him in shock. Captain, the legends say it's protected by— I know what the legends say, Mork cut him off. But we have no choice. If the ancient station exists, its weapons might be our only hope against these humans. As the damaged pirate ship changed course, heading deeper into uncharted space, Mork wondered if he was leading his crew to salvation or doom. Either way, he now understood one terrible truth. The humans would follow them wherever they went, relentless as the void itself. The ancient station hung in the emptiness of deep space like a forgotten monument. Its shape reminded Mork of a massive wheel with spokes extending from a central hub. Dark metal that had weathered countless millennia gleamed dully in the light of a distant red dwarf star. No one knew who had built it. The civilization responsible had vanished long before any current species achieved spaceflight. Scans are inconclusive, Kraz reported, his voice hushed with awe. The station's outer hull deflects our sensors. The Crimson Talon approached cautiously. The ship still leaked plasma from its damaged engines, and many systems operated at reduced capacity. Behind them, somewhere in the vast darkness, the human vessel Retribution continued its relentless pursuit. Legends say the ancient station contains weapons of immense power, Mork said, more to himself than to his crew. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. And deadly automated defenses, another officer added nervously. Mork's 6 eyes narrowed. We have no choice. The humans will be here soon. Prepare the boarding party. Aboard the Retribution, Tom Miller watched the massive alien structure appear on their view screen. What is that thing? He asked, voice filled with wonder despite their grim mission. Jack limped to his brother's side, leaning heavily on his cane. The prosthetic arm he'd received after the mining station attack gleamed in the dim light of the bridge. I've heard stories, Jack said. Old traders' tales about an alien station from a long-dead civilization. They say it's filled with technology we can't even comprehend. Lisa looked up from her console. The pirates are moving to dock with it. They must be desperate, or they know something we don't. Tom replied. He turned to Dave. What's the status of our weapons? Dave shook his head. The Nebula damaged more systems than we thought. We have basic thrusters, life support, and maybe one round from the main. Guns. Not enough to stop that pirate ship. Tom considered their options. Then we follow them in. Whatever they're looking for in that station, we can't let them find it. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Mork led his boarding party into the ancient station. 14 Vegans, the strongest of his remaining crew, moved cautiously into a vast corridor. The ceiling towered 30 feet above them, and the walls were covered in strange, flowing symbols that seemed to shift when viewed directly. Look for weapon controls, Mork ordered. Anything that might help us against the humans. They moved deeper into the station, passing through chambers filled with machinery whose purpose they could only guess at. Everything was built on a massive scale, suggesting the station's creators had been far larger than any modern species. In one room, they found what appeared to be a map, a 3-dimensional projection showing the station's layout. There, Kraz pointed to a pulsing light at the station's center. That must be the control hub. As they turned to move in that direction, a low hum began to fill the air. The walls around them glowed faintly, and small openings appeared near. The ceiling, defense systems, Mork shouted. Take cover. Sleek metal orbs emerged from the openings, automated guardians programmed to protect the station from intruders. They fired beams of energy that cut through vegan hide like it was paper. 2 pirates fell immediately, their bodies smoking from perfectly cauterized wounds. Mork returned fire, his weapon having little effect on the Guardian's armor. Fall back to that junction. Use the corridor for cover. The pirates retreated, firing desperately at the pursuing orbs. 3 more Vegans fell before they reached the relative safety of a narrower corridor, where the Guardians couldn't follow all at once. "We need to find another route to the control hub," Mork growled, checking his weapon's charge. Kraz studied the map they had downloaded. "There's a maintenance tunnel 2 levels down. It might bypass the main defenses." Mork nodded grimly. "Move. Out." The Retribution docked at a different airlock, the humans proceeding with caution into the alien structure. Unlike the pirates, they moved slowly, documenting everything they saw. "These markings," Lisa said, scanning the shifting symbols on the walls. "They're similar to mathematical equations, but far more complex." Jack nodded. "I think they're instructions. Or warnings." A distant sound of energy weapons echoed through the vast corridors. "The pirates have encountered resistance," Tom noted. He checked the makeshift scanner Dave had built. "They're moving toward the center of the station. We should follow, but not directly. We need to find another path." Dave pointed to a small opening near the floor. "That looks like some kind of service duct. Might be tight, but we could fit." The humans crawled through the narrow passage, their smaller size giving them an advantage the bulky Vegans lacked. As they moved, they could hear more sounds of battle echoing through the station structure. "How many do you think are left?" Lisa asked quietly. "Not many," Tom replied. "That battle in the Nebula hurt them badly. But even a few Vegans are dangerous, especially if they're cornered." They emerged from the duct into a vast chamber filled with pulsing light. Transparent tubes ran from floor to ceiling, carrying what looked like pure energy. "Power distribution system," Dave said in awe. "This technology is thousands of years beyond ours." Jack pointed to a door on the far side. "That should lead us closer to where the pirates are headed." Captain Mork's party had been reduced to just 7. The station's defenses had proven more deadly than the legends suggested. They had lost 3 more crew members to hidden traps and another Guardian attack, but they were close now. The control hub's massive door loomed before them, a circular portal covered in the same shifting symbols that decorated the rest of the station. "How do we open it?" Kraz asked, touching the smooth surface cautiously. Before Mork could answer, the symbols flashed brightly and the door began to slide open. "It's recognizing us as intelligent life," he said. "The legends said the station was designed to share knowledge with worthy species." They stepped into a circular room dominated by a central platform. Above it hovered a 3-dimensional display showing what appeared to be star systems, thousands of them, rotating slowly. "The weapons controls must be here somewhere," Mork said, moving toward the platform. As he approached, the display changed, showing what was unmistakably a weapon system of immense power. The images depicted energy beams capable of destroying planets, shields that could absorb any attack, and propulsion systems that defied known physics. "With this," Mork breathed, "we could rule the galaxy. No species would dare oppose us." "Not even humans," Kraz added with satisfaction. Mork reached for what appeared to be a control interface, his mind filled with visions of revenge against the persistent humans who had caused them so much trouble. A voice spoke from behind them. "I wouldn't touch that if I were you." The Vegans spun around to see Tom Miller standing in the doorway, flanked by his brother Jack and the other humans. From the Retribution, they held mining tools converted into weapons, each aimed at the pirates. Mork snarled, raising his own weapon. "You're too late, human. The ancient station's weapons will soon be ours." Tom shook his head slowly. "You still don't understand, do you? This isn't a weapons platform." He gestured to the displays. "These are star charts, navigation data. This was a research station." "You're lying," Kraz growled, but doubt had crept into his voice. "The symbols on the walls," Lisa explained, stepping forward. "They're not just decoration, they're a language. Mathematical principles universal to all species. We've been studying them as we followed you." Jack nodded. "This station was built to share knowledge, not to destroy. The defenses are only to keep out those who would misuse that knowledge." Mork hesitated, looking back at the display. Now that he looked more carefully, He could see that what he had taken for weapon designs were actually something else: scientific principles, star maps, equations. In that moment of uncertainty, the humans attacked. The battle in the control hub was brief but fierce. The humans moved with surprising coordination, using the chamber's layout to their advantage. Though the Vegans were stronger individually, they were exhausted from fighting the station's defenses and caught off guard by the humans' revelation about the station's true purpose. Captain Mork watched in dismay as his remaining crew fell one by one. Kraz went down first, struck by a modified mining laser that penetrated his thick hide. 2 more Vegans fell after him, overwhelmed by the humans' unexpected tactics. Mork himself fought like a cornered beast, his massive frame absorbing punishment that would have killed most species instantly. But a blast from Jack's weapon caught him in the side, burning through his natural armor and into the soft tissue beneath. He stumbled back against the central platform, leaving a dark smear of blood on the ancient metal. When the fighting ended, Mork was the only Vegan still alive, though barely. He slumped against the base of the platform, one hand pressed to his grievous wound. The humans approached cautiously, weapons still raised. "It's over, Captain," Tom Miller said. His voice held no triumph, only a grim finality. Mork coughed, dark, blood spattering his chest. "Kill me and be done with it." To his surprise, Tom lowered his weapon. Jack did the same, though the other humans remained alert, watching for any last desperate move from the pirate captain. "Why?" Mork asked, genuinely confused. "Why show mercy now?" Tom knelt a few feet away, just outside of Mork's reach. "We're not like you. We don't kill prisoners." "Foolish," Mork muttered. "Weakness." "Is it?" Tom asked. "Tell me something, Captain. In all your years raiding across the galaxy, how many species have hunted you down like we did? How many pursued you this far?" Mork was silent for a moment. "None," he admitted finally. "Most species accept their losses and hide. They don't chase." "And that's why we're different," Lisa said, stepping forward. "That's why you never understood us." Mork studied the humans with all 6 of his eyes. Even now, bleeding out on an ancient alien station light years from his home, he struggled to understand these creatures. They were physically weaker than his species in almost every way, yet they had defeated his entire crew. "Why?" he asked again, his voice growing weaker. "Why pursue us so relentlessly? For revenge?" Jack shook his head. "Not just revenge, justice, protection." "Protection?" Mork repeated. "For every species that can't protect themselves," Tom explained. "For every mining station, every trader, every colony that lives in fear of pirates like you." Mork coughed again, more violently this time. "You risked everything. Modified your ship beyond safe limits, followed us into a nebula that could have killed you, boarded an ancient station filled with deadly defenses. All for justice?" "Yes," Tom said simply. A strange sound escaped Mork's throat, something between a laugh and a groan. "My species evolved on a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived. We built our entire culture around power, strength, dominance." He gestured weakly at the humans. "Your world must have been different." "Earth is a world of change," Lisa said. "Constantly shifting environments, seasons, challenges. We evolved to adapt rather than dominate. And that's why we fight differently," Jack added. "We don't rely on just our physical strength or natural advantages. We use everything around us." Mork nodded slowly, understanding finally dawning in, his fading consciousness. "That mining station. You used the environment against us in the nebula. You turned radiation into a weapon." His gaze traveled around the control hub. "And here, you studied while we fought." Dave, who had been examining the central platform, called out suddenly, "Tom, I think I figured out how to access the station's data core." The platform hummed to life, projecting a vast array of images. Above them, star charts, scientific formulas, and what appeared to be records of hundreds of different alien species. "It's a repository," Lisa breathed in awe. "Not just scientific knowledge, but cultural records, The station was collecting information about every spacefaring civilization it encountered. Mork watched as the display shifted to show images of dozens of different species, many he recognized as victims of vegan raids over the years. The sight stirred something unfamiliar in him, a feeling he had never experienced before. Was it regret? You know, he said quietly, drawing the humans' attention back to him. Our entire strategy relied on other species behaving predictably. When threatened, most retreat. When injured, they avoid further conflict. He coughed, more blood staining his chest. But you humans, you do the opposite. You become more dangerous when cornered. Tom nodded. We evolved as both predator and prey on our world. We understand both perspectives. That's why. Mork's breathing grew more labored. That's why we never had a chance against you humans. His massive body shuddered with pain. Not because you're stronger or faster. He looked up at the humans with something like respect in his dying eyes. But because you understand what it means to be hunted, and you refuse to be prey. Lisa stepped forward, a medical kit in hand. We could try to save him, she said to Tom. With the knowledge in this station and our medical supplies. But Mork shook his head. No, a vegan does not survive defeat. With tremendous effort, he straightened his posture, determined to die with dignity. But before I go, there's something you should know. He gestured weakly toward the station's displays. My fleet was just one of many. There are other vegan pirate captains out there. Some commanding ships 3 times the size of mine. Tom's expression hardened. Then we'll deal with them too. Strange sound emerged from Mork. It took the humans a moment to realize he was laughing. I believe you will, the dying pirate said. And that is the final lesson I learned about humans. His 6 eyes began to dim. You never stop. You never give up. Even when logic says you should. With his final breath, Mork looked directly at Tom. We never had a chance against you humans. Remember that. When you face my brothers. Then the massive alien slumped forward, his life extinguished. The humans stood in silence for a long moment, honoring the fallen enemy who had, in the end, understood them better than any of his kind. Finally, Tom turned to the others. Let's see what else this station can tell us. If there are more pirate fleets out there, we need to be ready. As they worked to unlock the ancient station's secrets, Lisa made a discovery that changed everything. Records of hundreds of species that had been victimized by pirates and other predatory civilizations across the galaxy. Many of these species were still suffering, unable to defend themselves. We could help them, she said, looking at the others. With this knowledge, with what we've learned, we could make a difference. Jack nodded slowly, not just for ourselves anymore, but for all of them. Tom studied the star charts, thinking of Captain Mork's final warning about other pirate fleets. Then he made his decision. Contact everyone who survived vegan attacks. Other mining stations, trading vessels, colonies, tell them what we found here. His eyes held a new determination. It's time to show the galaxy that humans aren't just survivors. We're protectors. As the Retribution departed the ancient station days later, it carried not weapons of destruction, but something far more powerful, knowledge, purpose, and a crew dedicated to ensuring that no species would have to live in fear of predators like the Vegans again. And throughout the galaxy, a new story began to spread among pirate crews and raiders of all species. Beware the humans. They don't fight. Like predators, they fight like prey that refuse to remain prey.